Jade Cole forgot her laptop at work at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. At 10:30 that same night, the Mafia boss who owned the company showed up at her apartment to deliver it himself. She answered the door in sweatpants and a tank top. He was in a three-piece suit holding her entire career in his hands. Sometimes the worst mistakes lead to the best complications. The day had started normal enough, which should have been Jade's first warning that chaos was inevitable. She'd arrived at Leone Capital at 7 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to finalize the quarterly portfolio review she'd been preparing for 3 weeks. The presentation was scheduled for 9 a.m. the next morning, Wednesday, in the main conference room, with investors who collectively managed $8 billion and had the attention spans of caffeinated squirrels. No pressure. She was 26 years old, and this was her shot. 18 months at Leone Capital, 18 months of proving she belonged in private equity, 18 months of being the youngest analyst in the office and having to work twice as hard to be taken half as seriously. This presentation was her chance to change that, to show them she wasn't just competent. She was essential. She'd worked through lunch, skipped her afternoon coffee break, stayed at her desk while the office slowly emptied around her. By 7 p.m., the analyst bullpen was empty except for her. By 7:30, most of the floor was dark. By 7:45, her phone rang. Maya, her best friend since college, her roommate for 2 years before Jade had moved to her own place, her person. "Please tell me you're not still at the office," Maya said when Jade answered. "I'm not still at the office. You're lying. I can hear the fluorescent lights. They have a specific hum, like dying bees." Jade looked up at the ceiling. "You're weirdly observant about lights. And you're weirdly obsessed with work. We have dinner reservations at 8. You promised." Jade checked her watch. 7:47. The restaurant was 20 minutes away on a good night. 15 if she got lucky with traffic and didn't care about minor traffic violations. "I'll be there," she said, already saving her work, closing programs, shoving papers into organized chaos on her desk. The presentation was done anyway, loaded onto her laptop, ready to go. She could review it one more time in the morning before the meeting. She had this. "You better be," Maya said. "I already ordered wine." Jade grabbed her bag, her phone, her keys, stood up from her desk, looked around to make sure she wasn't forgetting anything important. Laptop charger, check. Wallet, check. Sanity, questionable but present. She rushed to the elevator, made it to the lobby in 3 minutes, out to the street in 4. Caught a cab that was just dropping someone off. Minor miracle in Manhattan at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. She made it to the restaurant at 8:09. Maya was already there, wine already ordered, looking extremely pleased with herself. "You're late," Maya observed. "I'm here. That's what matters." They ordered food, talked about Maya's day, which involved a difficult client and a partner at her law firm who apparently didn't understand the concept of reasonable deadlines. Talked about Jade's presentation tomorrow, how important it was, how nervous she was. "You're going to kill it," Maya said. "You always do." Halfway through appetizers, Jade reached for her phone to show Maya something. A meme. Something stupid that would make them both laugh and remind her that life existed outside quarterly portfolio reviews and investor presentations. That's when she realized. Laptop. Office. Still on her desk. "Oh no," she said. Maya looked up. "What?" "My laptop. I left it. At the office, so get it tomorrow morning. The presentation is on it. All my notes, all my slides, everything. Isn't it backed up? To the company server, which I can't access from home without my laptop, because the security protocols require." Maya held up a hand. "Okay. I believe you. What are you going to do?" Jade was already pulling up her phone, calling the office. It rang, and went to voicemail because everyone was gone. It was after 8. The office closed at 6, Security locked the doors at 8 unless you had a keycard. Her keycard was in her other bag, at home, because she'd switched bags this morning and forgotten to transfer it. She called building security. Voicemail. She tried the main office line again. Voicemail. She looked at Maya. I'm so fucked. Can you redo it? Not at this level. Not in 12 hours. She felt panic starting to rise in her chest, that specific flavor of professional disaster that tasted like failure and unemployment. This was supposed to be my moment. This was supposed to prove I belong there. Maya reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Okay. Deep breath. We'll figure this out. Can you go back to the office? Building's locked. I don't have my key card. Can you call someone who does? Everyone's gone. It's after 8 on a Tuesday. Normal people have lives. You could call your boss. Jade laughed. It came out slightly hysterical. I can't call Dominic Leone and ask him to let me into the building because I forgot my laptop like some kind of incompetent child. Does he have a key card? He owns the building. But I'm not calling him. Why not? Because, Jade said, and didn't finish the sentence because she didn't have a good reason that didn't sound insane. Because Dominic Leone was her boss. Because he was intimidating and brilliant and ran a multi-billion-dollar investment firm at 41 years old. Because she'd been carefully not noticing how attractive he was for 18 months, and calling him at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday would require acknowledging his existence outside of professional contexts. Because she couldn't call him. She'd just have to survive on panic and spite until morning. Dominic Leone was still in his office at 9 p.m. because some meetings ran late, and some problems didn't solve themselves, and some territory disputes required his personal attention, whether he wanted to give it or not. Luca, his consigliere, and the closest thing he had to a best friend, had left 10 minutes ago after 3 hours of discussing shipping routes and profit margins, and which family was encroaching on which territory. Exhausting, but necessary. The legitimate business paid the bills. The less legitimate business paid for everything else. He stood up from his desk, stretched, decided to do one final walk through the office before heading home. Old habit. His father had done the same thing every night. Check the doors, check the lights, make sure everything was secure. Dominic had inherited the company and the habits that came with it. The executive floor was empty. The legal department was dark. The analyst bullpen still had one light on. He walked over to turn it off. That's when he saw the laptop, still open on a desk, papers scattered around it, coffee mug sitting nearby, still half full. The desk nameplate read, Jade Cole, financial analyst. He knew her, not personally, but professionally. She'd been with the company 18 months. Smart, sharp in meetings. Asked good questions that suggested she actually understood what they were discussing instead of just pretending. He'd noticed her work. He'd also noticed her, which was a problem he'd been carefully ignoring for approximately 18 months. She was 26. He was 41. She worked for him. These were facts that mattered. He looked at the laptop screen. Still on. Calendar visible. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., blocked off in red. Investor presentation. Quarterly portfolio review. Main conference room. He knew that presentation. Major clients. The kind of meeting that could make or break an analyst's career. The kind of thing you didn't show up to without preparation. She needed this laptop. His phone rang. Luca. You still there? Luca asked. About to leave. Why? Just making sure you're not working yourself to death. You have people for that. I'm fine. You're always fine. That's the problem. Dominic walked back toward his office, laptop in hand. I'll call you tomorrow. Wait. Why do you sound weird? I don't sound weird. You do. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm leaving. Are you holding something? How would you know if I'm holding something? Because I know you. What is it? Laptop. Whose laptop? One of the analysts. Which analyst? Does it matter? Luca was quiet for a beat. Then, oh, the analyst. Her name is Jade Cole. I know her name. You've been watching her for a year and a half. I haven't been watching her. You absolutely have. You look at her in meetings. Don't think I haven't noticed. Dominic didn't respond. So, Luca continued, clearly enjoying this. You have her laptop. What are you going to do with it? She has a presentation tomorrow. She needs it. So call her. Tell her to come get it. It's 9 p.m. Building's locked. Call security. Have them hold it for her. Dominic looked at the laptop, at the calendar showing tomorrow's meeting, at the time showing 9:17 p.m. He could call security. That would be the reasonable thing to do. I'll take it to her, he said. Silence. Then, you're delivering laptops now? She needs it tonight. For tomorrow. So have security call her. I'm handling it. More silence. Dominic could practically hear Luca grinning through the phone. You have her address? Luca asked. Employee records. Right. Employee records. Very professional. Nothing to do with the fact that you've been looking for an excuse to talk to her for 18 months. I'm hanging up now. Does she know you're coming? No. You're just going to show up at her apartment at 9:30 at night with her laptop. Yes. That's either very helpful or very creepy. I'm not sure which. It's helpful. She needs the laptop. I'm bringing it to her. That's all. Sure, Luca said. That's definitely all. Let me know how it goes. There's nothing to know. Luca laughed and hung up. Dominic stood in his office holding a laptop that belonged to a 26-year-old analyst who probably didn't even know he'd noticed her existence beyond her quarterly reports. He could call her, could have security handle it, could do about 15 different things that weren't driving to her apartment at 9:30 on a Tuesday night. He pulled up her employee file, got her address, West Village, 25 minutes this time of night. He grabbed his coat and left before he could talk himself out of it. Jade made it home by 9:45, which meant she'd left Maya at the restaurant with apologies and promises to make it up to her and genuine panic about tomorrow's presentation. She was fucked. Completely fucked. She'd spent the cab ride home trying to remember what was in the presentation, the key points, the major insights, the data that mattered. She could probably reconstruct 60% of it from memory, maybe 70 if she really focused. That wasn't good enough. She changed into sweatpants and a tank top because if she was going to have a professional crisis, she was at least going to be comfortable. Pulled her hair into a messy bun. Washed off her makeup because pretending to have her life together wasn't going to help anything at this point. She opened her personal laptop, started trying to rebuild the presentation from memory. It wasn't working. She had some of the data backed up in emails, some of the analysis saved in drafts, but the final version, the polished version, the version that was supposed to show $8 billion worth of investors that she knew what she was doing, that was on her work laptop, on her desk, in the office, mocking her. She was on her third failed attempt at recreating a slide when her doorbell rang. She looked at the clock. 10:27. She wasn't expecting anyone. Maya wouldn't come over without calling first. Her neighbor sometimes knocked on the wrong door when she was drunk, but it was Tuesday, and Mrs. Chen didn't drink on Tuesdays. She walked to the door, looked through the peephole. Tall man, dark suit. Couldn't see his face clearly from this angle, holding something. Who is it? She called through the door. Dominic Leone. You forgot something at the office. Her brain short-circuited. Dominic Leone, her boss, the CEO, the owner of the company, the man she saw in meetings and elevators and occasionally in the break room at 3 a.m. when they were both working late. The man who was brilliant and intimidating and ran a multi-billion-dollar firm and definitely did not deliver forgotten laptops to analysts' apartments at 10:30 at night. She opened the door. He was exactly as tall as she remembered, exactly as well-dressed. Tom Ford suit, perfectly tailored, probably cost more than her rent. Dark hair with just enough gray at the temples to be distinguished instead of old. Sharp jawline. Dark eyes that were currently looking at her with something she couldn't quite identify. He was holding her laptop. "You forgot this," he said. His voice was exactly as she remembered too. Deep, controlled, the kind of voice that made people listen when he talked. "I know you have the investor presentation tomorrow. Thought you might need it." She stared at him, then at the laptop, then back at him. "How did you... thank you, how did you know where I live?" "Employee records." He said it simply, matter of fact. "I apologize for showing up unannounced, but I know how important tomorrow is." "You brought it yourself? You needed it tonight." This seemed faster than calling security. She was still processing. He was at her door, at her apartment, at 10:30 at night, in a suit that probably cost more than her car, holding her laptop like it was the most normal thing in the world. She looked down at herself. Sweatpants, tank top, hair in a messy bun, no makeup. She looked like she'd given up on life. He looked like he'd just walked out of a board meeting. "Thank you," she said finally. "Seriously, I was panicking. You saved my career. Your career is safe. Your analysis is excellent. You'll do well tomorrow." She blinked. He knew her work, specifically. Not just that she existed. Not just that she was an analyst. He knew her analysis was good. "Do you want to come in?" she heard herself say. "Coffee? It's the least I can do." He should say no. She could see him thinking about it. Could see the moment he decided something. "Coffee would be nice," he said. She stepped back, let him in. Her apartment was small but nice. West Village rent was brutal, but she'd made it work. Books everywhere. Organized chaos. She'd cleaned last weekend, so at least it wasn't a disaster. He looked around, taking it in. She tried to see it through his eyes. Probably nothing like wherever he lived. Probably tiny and cluttered and unimpressive. She went to the kitchen, started making coffee. Her hands were shaking slightly. This was surreal. Her boss was in her apartment at 10:30 at night. Because he'd personally delivered her forgotten laptop. "You didn't have to do this," she said, focusing on the coffee maker because looking at him was too intense. "I could have figured something out. You would have stayed up all night trying to recreate the presentation." She glanced at him. He was leaning against her counter, suit jacket still on, looking completely at ease in her tiny kitchen. "How did you know I was doing that?" "Because that's what I would do." The coffee finished. She poured 2 mugs, handed him one. They moved to her small living room, sat on opposite ends of her couch, because sitting next to him seemed dangerous for reasons she didn't want to examine. "How long have you been working on the presentation?" he asked. 3 weeks. It's the biggest thing I've done at the firm." "You're nervous, terrified." She admitted it because there was something about him being here, in her space, at this hour, that made professional pretense feel pointless. "These investors could make or break my career. They're going to be impressed. You don't know that. I do. I've seen your work. You're thorough. You're smart. You don't take shortcuts." He took a sip of coffee. "This is good, by the way." "Thanks." "It's just coffee. Most people can't even get that right." They talked for 20 minutes, then 40, then an hour. She asked about his background, how he'd started the firm. "My father had his own business," Dominic said. "Different kind of business. But he taught me about leverage, about reading people, about when to push and when to wait. When he died, I had some capital. Not a lot. Enough to start small." He was looking at his coffee, not at her. "I borrowed the rest from people who believed in me. Built it one client at a time. One good quarter, one successful deal. Took 10 years to get here. Do you wish he'd seen it?" Every day. She understood that. Loss. wanting to prove something to someone who wasn't there to see it. She told him about Columbia, about working 2 jobs to afford business school, about the professor who'd told her she should consider a different career path because private equity wasn't for people like her, about proving him wrong. People like you? Dominic asked. Young, female, from Connecticut instead of Connecticut-adjacent wealth. She smiled without humor. He thought I'd be better suited for HR or maybe marketing. He was an idiot. He was a tenured professor who'd spent 30 years in the industry. Still an idiot. They talked about books. She was reading 3 at once. Couldn't help herself. Always had been that way. He admitted he only read nonfiction. Biographies mostly. People who'd built things or survived things or changed things. You should read fiction, she said. It's good for empathy. I have plenty of empathy. Do you? He looked at her. For the right people, yes. The way he said it made something in her chest tighten. They talked about travel. She'd backpacked through Japan on a budget that was mostly hostel beds and convenience store onigiri. He'd been to Italy 3 times, but always for business. Never longer than 4 days. You should go properly, she said. See where your family came from. Sicily? Isn't that where the Leones are from originally? He was quiet for a moment. Yes. My great-grandfather came over in 1952 with nothing. Built something here, but I've never been to his village. Never seen where he grew up. Why not? He shrugged. Business. Time. Maybe afraid it won't live up to the stories. Or maybe afraid it will. He looked at her. Maybe that too. The conversation shifted to smaller things. Favorite movies. He liked crime dramas, which she found funny for reasons she didn't articulate. She liked romantic comedies, which he pretended to judge but admitted he'd seen When Harry Met Sally 4 times. 4 times, she said, laughing. My ex-girlfriend liked it. The words hung there. Ex-girlfriend. Acknowledgement that he'd had a life, relationships, history. How long ago? Jade asked, then immediately regretted it. Sorry, that's none of my business. 3 years. He said it simply. We dated for 2 years. She wanted things I couldn't give her. Marriage, kids, normal life. I was building the firm, working 80-hour weeks. She got tired of waiting. Do you regret it? Not ending it, no. Regret how long I let it drag on when we both knew it wasn't working. Jade understood that. She'd had a boyfriend in business school. Nice guy. Smart. Wanted her to move to Boston after graduation. She'd chosen New York instead. Chose her career. He'd called her selfish. Maybe he was right. Not selfish, Dominic said when she told him this. Focused. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Selfish is taking without considering others. Focused is knowing what you want and not apologizing for pursuing it. He set down his coffee mug. You chose the life you wanted. That's not selfish. That's honest. She felt seen in a way that was uncomfortable and wonderful at the same time. The clock on her wall said 11:15. They'd been talking for 45 minutes. It felt like 10. What do you do when you're not working? She asked. He smiled slightly. When does that happen? Come on. You must have hobbies. I play piano, not well, but I play. She couldn't hide her surprise. Really? My mother insisted. 10 years of lessons. I hated it as a kid. But now, he paused. Now it's the only time my brain actually stops. That's not nothing. No, it's not. He looked at her. What about you? I run. Early mornings before work. It's terrible and I hate every second of it, but I keep doing it anyway. Why? Because it's the only time I'm not thinking about portfolios or presentations or whether I'm good enough to be doing this job. You're more than good enough. How do you know? Because I've watched you for 18 months. I've seen every report you've written, every analysis you've presented, every question you've asked in meetings. You're not just good enough. You're exceptional. She couldn't breathe properly. He was looking at her like she mattered. Like she wasn't just an analyst. Like she was something more. At 11:30, he stood. I should go. You need to prepare. She walked him to the door. Every step felt significant. Like they were walking toward something or away from it, and she couldn't tell which. At the door, he paused, turned to look at her. His hand came up, hovered near her face, then dropped back to his side like he'd caught himself doing something he shouldn't. Jade, yes? His voice was quieter now. Can I ask you something? Anything. If you didn't work for me. He chose the words carefully. If circumstances were different. If I wasn't your boss, and you weren't so young and none of the complicated things existed, would you have dinner with me? Her breath caught. The question was hypothetical. Impossible. Safe because it would never happen. Except his eyes said it wasn't hypothetical at all. It was the most real thing either of them had said all night. Yes, she said quietly. I would. He nodded slowly. Something shifted in his expression. Relief. Regret. Want. All of it at once. At the door, he paused, turned to look at her. Jade. Yes? He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. Can I ask you something? Anything. If you didn't work for me. He paused. If circumstances were different, would you have dinner with me? Her breath caught. The question hung between them, impossible to ignore. Yes, she said quietly. He nodded slowly. Something shifted in his expression. Something that looked like relief mixed with regret. Good to know, he said. Why are you asking? Because I've been thinking about it for a while. And I needed to know if I was completely delusional. She smiled despite everything. You're not delusional. But I'm still your boss. Yes. And you're 26. I'm aware. I'm 41. I know. These things matter. Do they? He looked at her for a long moment. Yes. They do. Then why did you ask? Because sometimes you need to know if something's impossible, or just complicated. He reached up, tucked a piece of hair behind her ear that had fallen from her bun. His hand lingered for a second. We're complicated. She couldn't breathe properly. And I should go. He left. She stood in her doorway, watching him walk down the hall to the elevator. He didn't look back. She closed her door, leaned against it, tried to remember how to think about something other than the fact that Dominic Leone had just asked if she'd have dinner with him in an alternate universe where he wasn't her boss, and she wasn't 15 years younger, and circumstances weren't impossibly complicated. She looked at her laptop, still sitting on her counter where he'd placed it. She'd gotten her laptop back. That was the important thing. Tomorrow she'd give the presentation of her life and prove she belonged at Leone Capital. The rest of it. The question. The way he'd looked at her. The hair tuck. That was just complicated. She could do complicated. Maybe. The next morning, Jade arrived at the office at 7 a.m., gave herself 2 hours to review the presentation one final time, made minor adjustments, practiced her talking points, tried not to think about the fact that Dominic Leone had been in her apartment 12 hours ago, asking hypothetical questions about dinner. At 8:45, she headed to the conference room. The investors were already there. 3 men, 2 women, all of them in their 50s or 60s, all of them with expressions that suggested they'd seen 1,000 presentations and been impressed by approximately none of them. She set up her laptop, pulled up the presentation, took a breath. At 8:55, Dominic walked in. He nodded to the investors, took a seat at the back of the room, made eye contact with Jade for exactly 2 seconds, gave her the smallest nod. She understood. You've got this. At 9 a.m., she started talking. She killed it. Every slide was perfect. Every data point was accurate. Every insight was sharp and well-reasoned. She anticipated their questions before they asked them. She explained complex concepts in simple language. She showed them exactly why Leone Capital's portfolio had outperformed the market by 18% this quarter, and what that meant for their investments. By 9:45, they were impressed. She could see it, the way they leaned forward, the way they asked follow-up questions that suggested actual interest instead of polite obligation. At 10 a.m., she wrapped up, thanked them for their time, asked if they had any additional questions. They didn't. They thanked her. Told her it was an excellent presentation. Told Dominic he had a strong team. After they left, her colleagues congratulated her. Told her she'd done great. Asked where she wanted to go for celebratory drinks later. She looked to the back of the room. Dominic was still there, still watching her. He stood, walked over. The room gradually emptied as people drifted back to their desks. When they were alone, he said, "Good work. Thank you. I told you they'd be impressed." "You did." Pause. He looked like he wanted to say something else, decided against it. She watched him leave, felt the absence like a physical thing. The next week was torture. They saw each other in meetings, in the elevator, in the hallway. Every interaction was professional, polite, completely normal except for the part where it felt like standing next to a live wire. He didn't ask her to dinner, didn't mention that night. Acted like nothing had happened, because technically nothing had happened. Just a hypothetical question, just circumstances being complicated. Jade threw herself into work, took on extra projects, stayed late. Anything to avoid thinking about the fact that her boss had asked if she'd date him in an alternate universe, and she'd said yes, and now they both had to pretend that conversation never occurred. Maya noticed. Obviously. "You're working too much," Maya said over lunch on Friday. "I'm fine. You're not fine. You're doing that thing where you avoid feelings by drowning in spreadsheets. I like spreadsheets. No one likes spreadsheets." "What happened?" Jade told her. About the laptop. About Dominic showing up. About the question. Maya stared at her. "Your boss asked if you'd date him if he wasn't your boss. Basically. And you said yes. Obviously. And now you're both just... what? Pretending it didn't happen? What else are we supposed to do?" Maya shook her head. "This is the most tragic thing I've ever heard." Week 2 was worse. One of the senior partners retired. The firm was restructuring. People were being moved to different departments. Jade heard rumors that she might be promoted, might be transferred, might be kept exactly where she was. She didn't know what she wanted. Week 3, she got a call from a headhunter. Competing firm. Better title. More money. Opportunity to work directly with some of the biggest names in private equity. She should take it. It was a better opportunity professionally. And it would solve the complicated situation with Dominic by removing her from it entirely. She told Maya about the offer. "Are you going to take it?" Maya asked. "I don't know. That's not like you. You always know. This is different. Because of him. Because of everything." "Jade," Maya said carefully, "you don't leave a job you love because your boss is attractive and asked you a hypothetical question. What if it's not hypothetical? Then he needs to figure out how to make it not hypothetical. And until then, you need to decide what you want based on your career, not on a man." Maya was right. Obviously, Maya was right. Jade told the headhunter she'd think about it. Dominic heard about the offer the next day. HR mentioned it in passing. Jade Cole got an outside offer. Competing firm. She's considering it. He felt it like a punch. Luca was in his office when he got the news. Noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" Luca asked. "Nothing. You look like someone just told you the IRS is auditing us." "Jade got a job offer. She's thinking about leaving." Luca absorbed this. Then, "So stop her." "I can't stop her. It's her career. You can give her a reason to stay. Like what? Like telling her you want to take her to dinner. Like solving the problem you've been circling for 3 weeks. She works for me. So transfer her. Promote her. Make her not your employee. You own the company, Dominic. You can restructure. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You want her. She clearly wants you. The only obstacle is logistics. Fix the logistics. Dominic was quiet. You're going to let her leave, Luca said, because you're too much of a coward to ask for what you want. I'm not a coward. Then prove it. Dominic called Jade into his office late Friday afternoon. The message came through at 5:45. Can you come see me? Simple, direct, the kind of message that could mean anything or nothing. She saved her work, stood up, walked to the executive floor, knocked on his doorframe. Come in. She entered. He was standing by the window, looking out at Manhattan spread below them like a game board. He didn't turn immediately, just stood there, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. Close the door, he said. She did. The click felt loud, final, like something was ending or beginning and she couldn't tell which. He turned then, looked at her. His expression was controlled, professional, but she'd been watching him in meetings for 18 months. She could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands were too still. I heard about the offer, he said. She'd been expecting this. HR probably told him. Or maybe someone from the competing firm had reached out as a courtesy, the way these things worked at the senior levels. I'm considering it, she said. Why? The question was simple. The answer was anything but. It's a good opportunity, she said carefully. Better title, more responsibility, room to grow. You have room to grow here. I know. So why are you considering leaving? He was watching her like he already knew the answer, like he was waiting for her to say it out loud, to make it real. She looked away, couldn't hold his gaze and lie at the same time. Working here got complicated. She heard him move, looked back to find him closer. Not touching close, but close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to keep eye contact. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, that expensive, subtle scent she'd been trying to ignore for 3 weeks. Complicated how? He asked quietly. You know how. Say it anyway. She met his eyes. Since that night, at my apartment. When you asked me that question, working here became difficult because of me, because of both of us, she corrected. Because I come into the office and see you in meetings and remember the way you looked at me. Because I hear your voice in the elevator and remember you asking if I'd have dinner with you in some alternate universe. Because I can't do my job properly when half my brain is wondering what if. What if what? What if circumstances were different? What if you weren't my boss? What if the 15 years between us didn't matter? What if all the reasons we can't do this weren't reasons at all? He was quiet for a long moment. She watched emotions cross his face, things he was trying not to feel, trying not to show. Then he said, They don't have to be. What? The reasons. He moved slightly closer. Not quite crowding her space, but close. The logistics. They're fixable. How? If I transfer you. Different department. New supervisor. You don't report to me anymore. Not directly. Not in any way that makes this inappropriate. She processed this. This. What we're not talking about. What we've been not talking about for 3 weeks. And if I transfer? She asked, needing him to say it. What happens then? Then I take you to dinner. And we stop pretending. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. You've thought about this. The transfer. Yes. For how long? Since the night I left your apartment. Since you said yes to a hypothetical question, and I realized I didn't want it to stay hypothetical. She couldn't breathe properly. Why didn't you do this earlier? He looked at her. Really looked at her. vulnerable in a way she'd never seen him. Because I was afraid you'd say no. Afraid you'd think I was abusing my position. Afraid I was wrong about what I saw in your eyes that night. You weren't wrong. No? She stepped closer, closed the distance he'd left between them. I've been coming to work for 3 weeks trying to figure out how to quit without it looking like I was running away from you. This offer. It's not about career growth. It's about the fact that I can't be in the same building as you and not want things I'm not supposed to want. What things? You know what things. Say them. Dominic. Say them, Jade. I want you to kiss me, she said. I want to have dinner with you without it being hypothetical. I want to know what it's like when you stop being my boss and start being just a man who showed up at my apartment at 10:30 at night because I forgot my laptop. He was close enough now that she could feel the heat of him. Close enough that if either of them moved even slightly, they'd be touching. If I transfer you, he said quietly, this becomes real. No more pretending. No more professional distance. I take you to dinner and I don't bring you back. She smiled. That's very presumptuous. Is it wrong? No. Good. His hand came up, touched her jaw lightly, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Because I've been patient for 18 months. I've been professional. I've followed every rule. But I'm done. If you stay, if you let me transfer you, I'm not going to be patient anymore. Promise? He almost smiled. That's what you're worried about? Me being too patient? I'm worried about a lot of things. The age difference. What people will say. Whether this is a terrible idea. It probably is a terrible idea. That's not reassuring. I'm not trying to reassure you. I'm trying to be honest. This is complicated. The age gap matters. People will talk, but I want you anyway. Have wanted you since you made Marcus look unprepared in that meeting 18 months ago. Maybe before that. Maybe the first time I saw you in the elevator looking at your phone and didn't see me at all. I saw you. You didn't. I did, she said. I just pretended not to. Because you were my boss and you were intimidating and looking at you felt dangerous. Was I right? Is it dangerous? Yes. He leaned in, close enough that his breath touched her lips. Good. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't. He didn't kiss her, just stayed there, close, waiting, letting her make the choice. Transfer me, she said. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He stepped back, created space between them again. Professional distance. The kind of distance that said they were still in his office, still technically boss and employee, still bound by rules that mattered. I'll have HR process it Monday, he said. You'll move to strategic development. Report to Sarah. She's good. You'll like working with her. And after? After. He looked at her. Saturday. Dinner. I'll pick you up at 8. That's not a question. No, it's not. He almost smiled. Is that a problem? She smiled back. No, it's perfect. He kissed her. Right there in his office with the door closed and the entire floor still half full of people working late on a Friday. Kissed her like he'd been thinking about it for 18 months. Like he'd been holding back and didn't have to anymore. When they broke apart, she said, "This is very unprofessional. I'm aware." He kissed her again. HR is going to have opinions. So many opinions. Worth it? Completely. The transfer took a week to process. Jade moved to the strategic development team. Different floor, different supervisor. Still at Leone Capital, but no longer Dominic's direct report, which meant dinner was no longer hypothetical. He picked her up the following Friday at 8 p.m., took her to a restaurant in Tribeca that was intimate and expensive, and exactly the kind of place you took someone when you were trying to impress them. She wore a dress. He wore a suit. They sat across from each other and talked about everything they hadn't been able to talk about for 18 months. She asked about his family. He told her. Carefully edited version. Italian family. 3 generations in New York. Legitimate businesses and less legitimate connections. He didn't lie. He just didn't tell her everything. Not yet. She told him about growing up in Connecticut, about her parents who were proud of her MBA but didn't really understand private equity, about her sister who thought she worked too much. At the end of the night, he drove her home, walked her to her door, kissed her properly this time. No office, no professional boundaries, just them. "Can I see you again?" he asked. She laughed. "You just transferred me and restructured part of your company so we could do this. I think you've earned a second date. Third date, technically. The laptop counts." That wasn't a date. It was the beginning of one. 2 weeks in, she met Luca. Dominic brought her to a business dinner. Small group, 4 people from the firm. She knew it was a test, not of her, of them, seeing if his people would accept her. Luca sat across from her, studied her throughout appetizers, finally said, "You're the analyst." "Former analyst. I'm in strategic development now. Convenient transfer." "Very convenient," Jade agreed. "And you're here because?" "Because Dominic invited me." Luca smiled. "You're direct. I like that." He looked at Dominic. "She's smarter than your last girlfriend." "I didn't have a last girlfriend," Dominic said. "Exactly. That's been your problem." He turned back to Jade. "He's been obsessed with you for over a year. Did he tell you that?" Jade glanced at Dominic. He looked mildly uncomfortable. "No, he failed to mention that. Since you started at the firm, watches you in meetings, asks about your projects. It's been very entertaining." "Luca," Dominic said. A warning. "What?" "I'm complimenting her. You could do much worse." "I'm aware." Later, after dinner in the car, Jade said, "Over a year?" Dominic kept his eyes on the road. "Luca exaggerates." "Does he?" "Sometimes. But not about this." He pulled up outside her building, looked at her. "Not about this." She kissed him. "Glad to know I wasn't alone." "You were never alone." Month 2, he told her the truth about the business. They were at his place. Penthouse in Tribeca with floor-to-ceiling windows that showed Manhattan like a glittering promise. They'd had dinner. Thai takeout because neither of them felt like going out. Had opened a bottle of wine that probably cost more than her monthly student loan payment. They were on his couch, her feet in his lap, his hand absently rubbing her ankle. Comfortable. Easy. The kind of domestic intimacy that felt like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. "I need to tell you something," he said. His tone made her sit up. Look at him. This wasn't casual conversation. This was serious. "Okay," she said. He was quiet for a moment, choosing words, or maybe choosing whether to say them at all. "Leone Capital is legitimate," he started. "Every investment, every contract, every dollar that goes through the firm is clean, audited, legal, above board." She waited, sensed there was more. A but coming. "But that's not where I come from." He looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was trying to see if she could handle what he was about to say. "My family. 3 generations back. My great-grandfather came from Sicily in 1952. He brought certain connections, certain ways of doing business. My grandfather continued them. My father inherited them, and now I have them." She felt her heart start to beat faster. "Connections. Organized crime," he said. The words were blunt, unvarnished. The kind of thing people don't talk about, but everyone knows exists. My family has been connected to it for 70 years. She processed this. Thought about all the meetings she'd been in, all the perfectly legitimate business dealings she'd seen, all the quarterly reports that showed nothing but proper investment strategies. "You're Mafia," she said quietly. "That's a dramatic word. But Yes, essentially. Does the firm know? Some of them. Luca, obviously. A few of the senior partners who have been with me from the beginning. They know where the initial capital came from. They know what my family name means in certain circles. He paused. Most of the employees have no idea. The analysts, the associates, the support staff. To them, it's just a successful investment firm. And it is. The business is completely legitimate. I keep it separate. But you're still... She struggled for the right words. You're still involved. In the other part. Yes. I have responsibilities, obligations, my family, our territories, the people who depend on us. I can't just walk away from that. He was watching her carefully, waiting for her reaction, for her to stand up and leave. She didn't stand up. What does that mean? She asked. The obligations. What do you actually do? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, we move things. Goods that go through channels that aren't officially documented. We provide protection for businesses in our territory. We settle disputes that can't go through legal channels. We maintain order. By force? When necessary. Not often. Usually the threat is enough. But yes, sometimes by force. Have you? She stopped. Started again. Have you ever hurt anyone? Yes. The answer was simple. Honest. Not apologetic. Have you killed anyone? No. That's not what I do. I'm the business side, strategy, negotiations, money. But I know people who have. I've ordered things that resulted in people getting hurt. I'm not innocent, Jade. I need you to understand that. She absorbed this. Tried to reconcile the man who'd brought her laptop at 10:30 at night with the man who just admitted to ordering violence. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you deserve to know who I am. What I am. Before this goes any further. Before you. He stopped. Looked away. Before I fall more in love with you than I already have. Her breath caught. What? He looked back at her. I'm in love with you. Have been since probably that first coffee in your apartment. Maybe before. And you need to know the truth before you decide if you can love me back. She couldn't breathe properly. He just told her he was connected to organized crime and that he loved her in the same conversation, and her brain didn't know which thing to process first. I need to think, she said. I know. Not about. She clarified. Not about whether I love you. I know that answer. But about the rest of it. About what it means, whether I can live with it. That's fair. He drove her home that night, walked her to her door, didn't try to kiss her, just looked at her like he was memorizing her face in case this was the last time. Take all the time you need, he said. If you decide you can't do this, I understand. She went inside, sat on her couch, stared at nothing, called Maya at 11 p.m. He told me, Jade said when Maya answered. Told you what? About his family, about what they do, the organized crime thing. Oh, Maya was quiet for a beat. And I don't know what to do. Do you love him? Yes. Does he treat you well? Better than anyone ever has? Does he make you happy? Yes. Then the question is whether you can live with what he is, not whether you should. Whether you can. Jade was quiet. Maya continued. Look, most people are with someone who has secrets, who has parts of their life that are complicated or messy or not entirely legal. His is just more dramatic than most. The question is whether you trust him to keep you safe, to not pull you into things you can't handle. To be honest with you, he was honest tonight. Then he's already better than most men. Jade thought about this for 3 days. Really thought about it. What it meant to be with someone connected to organized crime. What it meant to love someone who had violence in his past and probably in his future. What it meant to choose this life. On day 4, she showed up at his penthouse at 8 p.m. He answered the door, looked surprised. Jade. Can I come in? Of course. She walked past him into the living room, turned to face him. I have questions, she said. Okay. If we do this. If I stay. Am I in danger? No. You're safer with me than without me. I'll make sure of that. Will you lie to me? Not about anything that matters. Will you expect me to be involved in? She gestured vaguely. The family business? No. That's separate. You're not part of that world unless you want to be. What if I want out? What if a year from now I decide I can't do this? Then you leave. No questions. No consequences. I'll make sure you're safe and we go our separate ways. She studied him. He meant it. All of it. Okay, she said. Okay? I'm not running. I thought about it. For 3 days I thought about nothing else. And I'm not running. He stepped closer. You're sure? I'm terrified. But I'm sure. Why? Because I love you. Because you were honest with me. Because you gave me the choice instead of hiding it until I was in too deep. She moved toward him. Because the way you look at me matters more than what your family does. He pulled her close, kissed her like he'd been holding his breath for 3 days and could finally exhale. I love you, he said against her mouth. I know. You told me. I'm going to keep telling you. Good. Don't stop. Then we'll figure it out. He pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. Month 3. They fell into a rhythm that felt like it had always existed. Sunday dinners at his mother's house in Brooklyn became ritual. The first time he brought her, Maria Rossi had opened the door, taken one look at Jade, and pulled her into a hug that squeezed the air from her lungs. Finally, Maria had said, a smart girl, not like that last one who only cared about shoes. Ma, I dated her 6 years ago. Still. Terrible taste in women until now. She'd held Jade at arm's length. You're too skinny. We fix this. Come. The house was chaos. Aunts and uncles and cousins whose names Jade couldn't track. Everyone talking at once, half in English, half in Italian. Someone arguing about soccer. Someone else arguing about the proper way to make gravy. Children running. Dogs barking. Organized chaos that somehow resulted in a 5-course meal that appeared on the table at exactly 3 p.m. Jade learned quickly. Don't refuse seconds. Don't mention you're full. Don't try to help clear plates unless you want to be shooed out of the kitchen. Just eat and laugh, and let the family absorb you into their loud, loving, slightly overwhelming world. After the 3rd Sunday dinner, Maria pulled Jade aside while Dominic was outside with his cousins. You make him happy, Maria said. Not a question. A statement. He makes me happy too. Good. Because I like you, and I don't like many people. She paused. You know what he is? What the family is? Jade met her eyes. I know. And you stay anyway. I stay anyway. Maria nodded, approving. Smart and brave. Good combination. She patted Jade's cheek. You keep him. He needs someone who isn't afraid. Weeknights they alternated between his place and hers. Hers was smaller, cozier, the kind of space where they could order takeout and watch television and forget that he ran a company and she was building a career. His place was impressive, the kind of penthouse that appeared in magazines. But sometimes impressive felt like pressure. On Wednesdays, she cooked. Badly. He pretended not to notice that the pasta was overdone or the chicken was dry. On Fridays, he cooked. Actually, cooked. Made things from scratch that tasted like his grandmother's recipes because they were his grandmother's recipes. You never told me you could cook, she said the first time he made braciole. You never asked. This is unfair. You're good at everything. Not everything. He kissed her forehead. I'm terrible at delegating. Ask Luca. Weekend mornings were for sleeping late and making coffee and reading the Times in comfortable silence. She'd steal the business section. He'd pretend to be annoyed but read the art section instead. They'd have lazy debates about nothing important. Whether almond milk counted as real milk, whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie, whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It absolutely does not, he said with the kind of conviction usually reserved for business negotiations. It's delicious. You're a snob. I'm Italian. We have standards. Your mother puts peas in her carbonara. That's different. How is that different? It just is. She met more of his people throughout month 3 and into month 4. Not just Luca. The others. The ones who knew what the family business actually meant. They were careful at first, watched her. Assessed whether she was a liability or an asset. Whether she could be trusted or needed to be managed. She didn't ask questions she shouldn't ask. Didn't push into conversations that went quiet when she walked into rooms. Just existed in his world without judgment. Showed up when invited. Was polite and professional, and made it clear she understood boundaries. By the end of month 3, they decided she was acceptable. By month 4, they decided she was family. Vincent, one of the senior guys who handled logistics, pulled her aside at a dinner. You're good for him. Haven't seen him this relaxed in years. Is he usually not relaxed? Dominic. Vincent laughed. Man's wound tighter than a spring. Always thinking 3 moves ahead. Always working an angle. But with you. He paused. With you, he's just a man who's in love. It's nice to see. Month 4. He asked her to move in. They were at the grocery store on a Sunday afternoon doing something absurdly domestic like debating olive oil brands when he said it. Move in with me. She was holding 2 bottles of olive oil, comparing prices. Looked up at him. What? Your lease is up next month. Don't renew it. Move in with me. She set down the olive oil. That's fast. We've known each other for almost 2 years. We've been dancing around this for 18 months. We've been together for 4 months. I'd say we're overdue. People will talk. At the office. People are already talking. We transferred you specifically so we could date. Everyone knows. Your mother will have opinions. My mother adores you. She's been asking when you're moving in since the second Sunday dinner. She had? She does not respect boundaries. Jade smiled. Is this what you want? He took the olive oil bottles from her hands. Set them in the cart. Took her hands instead. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to come home to you every night. I want our space instead of my space and your space. I want to stop counting down until I see you again because you'll just be there. Yes. This is what I want. Then yes. 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 I'll move in. He kissed her right there in the olive oil aisle. Some woman with a shopping cart said, "Excuse me," and he ignored her completely until Jade laughed against his mouth and they had to move. They loaded groceries into his car, drove back to his place. Their place now, she corrected mentally. Started unpacking. She was pulling vegetables from a bag when he came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. I'm glad you forgot your laptop, he said against her hair. Best mistake I ever made. Not a mistake. He turned her around to face him. I would have found another excuse eventually. What excuse? I don't know. Maybe I would have spilled coffee on you. Dramatic meet cute in the office lobby. That's aggressive. I was desperate. 18 months of watching you in meetings and pretending I didn't want to know everything about you. The laptop gave me an excuse I'd been looking for. She kissed him. I'm glad you were desperate. Me too. The move happened over 2 weekends. Maya helped. Made running commentary the entire time about how this was the fastest relationship progression she'd ever witnessed, and Jade was either living a rom-com or heading for spectacular disaster. I vote rom-com, Jade said, packing books into boxes. You would. You're the one living it. Maya taped a box shut. Does his bathroom have good counter space? That matters. His bathroom is bigger than my current living room. Disgusting. I'm happy for you. Month 5 settled into the reality of living together, learning each other's routines. His alarm went off at 5:30 every morning, hers at 6:30. He made coffee strong enough to strip paint. She liked hers with cream and sugar. He folded his clothes with military precision. She threw hers in drawers and hoped for the best. They had their first fight in month 5. Something stupid about her leaving dishes in the sink overnight. He'd said something about organization. She'd said something about him being controlling. They'd both said things they didn't mean. He'd slept on the couch. She'd lain awake feeling terrible. At 3 a.m., she'd gone to the living room, found him awake too. "I'm sorry," they'd both said at the same time. They'd laughed, made up, went back to bed together. In the morning, he'd said, "We're going to fight sometimes. That's normal, I know. But I'll always love you. Even when I'm annoyed about dishes. I'll try to be better about dishes. I'll try to be less rigid about dishes." They'd made it work. 6 months in, her apartment was empty, her lease terminated, her life fully integrated into his. Their place had her books on his shelves, her coffee mugs in his cabinets, her running shoes by the door. They were having dinner at her old apartment one last time, packing the final boxes, when Maya said, "You know this is insane, right?" "What part?" "All of it. You forgot your laptop. He delivered it. Now you live together and you're meeting his Mafia family at Sunday dinners and you're just okay with all of it. When you say it like that, it sounds fast." It was fast. Jade shrugged. Sometimes things just work. Sometimes you meet someone and you know. This is it. This is the person. You're not scared? The age difference? The Mafia thing? The fact that you could have gotten fired for dating your boss? Terrified. Every day. But she smiled. Also happy. Every day. The terror and the happiness balance out. Maya hugged her. "You're either the smartest person I know or the stupidest. I haven't decided which. I'll take either." That night, back at their place, she found Dominic on the balcony, looking out at Manhattan spread below them like a promise. She joined him, wrapped her arms around him from behind. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That I almost didn't bring you the laptop that night." "Why almost?" "Because I thought it would be too obvious. Too much. That you'd see right through it. That you'd realize I'd been looking for an excuse to talk to you for 18 months, and a forgotten laptop was just convenient timing." She laughed. "I had no idea." "I know. That's what made it work. You thought I was being a responsible employer. I was being a desperate man who'd been watching you for a 1.5 years. Desperate looks good on you. I'll keep that in mind." They stood there looking at the city, at the life they'd built, at everything that had started with a forgotten laptop and a man who'd decided professional boundaries were negotiable when it came to what he wanted. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For bringing me the laptop. For asking impossible questions. For being patient. For not being patient. For all of it." He turned in her arms, looked at her. "You're welcome. But I didn't do any of that for gratitude. I did it because the alternative was spending the rest of my life wondering what if. And I don't do well with what ifs. Me neither. Not anymore. Sometimes the best things come from mistakes. Sometimes you forget your laptop and your boss brings it to you at 10:30 at night and everything changes. Sometimes circumstances are complicated, but people are worth the complications. Sometimes 15 minutes becomes forever, and that's exactly what you need. Jade Cole forgot her laptop at work on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, she'd given the presentation of her life. By Thursday, she was in love with her boss. By Sunday, she'd moved in with him. Sometimes chaos is just destiny being impatient.